BTN Sports, this is Bobcat Insider, sponsored by First Interstate Bank.
Coach, here we go. 3 weeks in the books. Week 4 coming up. Week 3 was gorgeous. Can we just appreciate how beautiful a day it was on Saturday at Bobcat Stadium?
Yeah, let's hang on to this for a little bit longer. It was a beautiful day, a great day for football. Thought the crowd brought the energy that we come to expect, and the guys played well, and that's what you want on a Saturday afternoon in Bozeman. I
thought the crowd brought even a little extra early. Maybe it was just in my head, but it felt like it was a little extra loud for that first quarter or so. Did you hear that?
Yeah. I think that's what we come to expect, and certainly don't take for granted. But absolutely, it was a beautiful day, like we talked about, and we played well early. And I hope not only did they energize us, but hopefully we energize them a little bit too.
Now, hopefully we got a few more sunshine games before things really get cold when we're at home. And I know next week should be pretty solid over at Weber too. But all right, well, let's talk about this team a little bit. Let's talk about where things are 3 weeks in. First team over 900 rushing yards around the nation, over 950 already in these first 3 weeks. The offensive line, I know it's where you build this program. How have you felt like they performed early on this year?
Yeah, I thought we played really well on Saturday, and we should. That was the expectation, and that was to build off that performance that we felt was really strong at South Dakota State. And quite frankly, I thought we played markedly better on this Saturday than that first Saturday, and that's what you want. You want a group that's continuing to raise the bar. So they're playing physical, they're playing fast. I thought our pad level over the course of these 3 games has continued to improve, and they clearly opened up big time holes for our guys and those running backs. The whole stable of them had a chance to take advantage of it.
We know there was a little bit of reshuffling. Obviously, a lot of talent coming back, but with Reimer moving inside, I bet on getting some time. JT Reed a little bit banged up. How do you feel like the restructuring has worked out for you?
Well, I think it's worked out well, all things considered. We didn't anticipate that both JT Reed and Cole Sane would go down, but moving Rush Reimer in the spring to guard and giving us at least that flexibility allowed for us to react the way we did. I think we got our best 5 out there. Connor Moore's responded really well for a redshirt freshman, and him and Rush are playing really well on that left side, and then Omar and Marcus are really playing well on that right side, and Justice continues to hold it down the middle.
When you look at the culture of that offensive line group, it feels really, really strong. And with a new offensive line coach in Al Johnson replacing Brian Armstrong this year, how do you feel like Al Johnson has kind of picked up that football and carried it? How has he carried that culture forward with what was already here?
Yeah, really was deliberate getting to know the guys back in the winter. It's in some ways it is a fresh start with a new coach. Not that what the guys had done previous is discounted, but new set of eyes, in some ways new set of ideas. And a little bit different way of doing things. I felt really strong. We made a really strong hire now, and he's to this point proven us right. Just a tremendous passion for offensive line play, and I think he really enjoys the group that he's working with, but at the same time is willing to push them, and I think they've really responded well to that.
Yeah, one of the brighter spotlights on an offensive line coach, I'm sure, in this community compared to some others. But help us understand from a casual fan's perspective, when you're watching this offensive line, where should their eyes go? How can they appreciate what this offensive line is doing when they're sitting up in the stands on Saturdays?
Well, they're moving the line of scrimmage. I think that's something you can see on the field. Are we getting the push play after play? And then, I think the harder part maybe to see is how choreographed are they. That's having 5 guys move in concert is the way it should look. And I think this group is doing that by and large. We've had very few mental errors as we've gone through the season. They've communicated well. They're on the same page, and they're generally playing really fast. And that's what we need out of that group. Fast and physical is what we talk about, and feel like they've taken some real good steps as we head into conference play.
Well, one of the guys who's been hitting the holes pretty well is Jared White. He's got 20 career carries now. He's already up to 273 career yards, 2 touchdowns. He's had another big 51-yard run this last week. What have you seen from Jared White? He seems quite explosive.
Yeah. I think we spoke about it after the first game. I think he's back physically, and that took a little bit of time. And honestly, it took a little bit longer than we thought. He wasn't quite there in spring, but worked real hard to continue to get back to form, and I think he's there. Jared's very versatile as far as being able to run all the types of runs we ask. He's both can be fast enough, and then he's physical enough to break arm tackles, and he's really good out of the backfield as well, catching the ball, which showed up in that first game. So he's made the most of his opportunities. And at that position with all the guys we have, you have to be opportunistic to continue to gain those chances in games. So I look for Jared to continue to be a guy that's going to be out there on Saturdays making plays for the Cats.
And then through the air in this game against Stetson in the win to go to 2-1. Seems like you guys really wanted to get Jacob Trimble some opportunities. 9 targets in this game. Was that something that you guys really were focused on coming into this game, or was it more game plan just kind of playing out?
Well, I think it's game plan playing out relative to his position. The way they played the slot receiver, they played a lot of apex, we call it, where they're playing their nickel back between our tight end and then the slot receiver, or our tackle and the slot receiver, leaving that bubble open in particular. So he got quite a bit of yards out of that. But one thing, we want to get Jacob going on the offensive side. He really hadn't done that to this point. So I think our fans saw what he could do. Not only can he catch it, but he can do some things after the catch. So we'll need a significant contribution as the season goes along out of Jacob, and that was a good start for sure.
Over 100-yard receiving for Jacob Trimble. First time Bobcat has done that since Willie Patterson had 148 against Northern Colorado in October last year. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but when we get back, we'll get another edition of the Players Lounge, and a little later we'll have a teaser of the Big Sky Conference preview show. More after this on the Bobcat Insider.
Welcome back to Bobcat Insider, sponsored by First Interstate Bank.
Back on the Bobcat Insider, we've got another edition of the Players Lounge coming up, talking some offensive line. Lou Salcido, JT Reed, and Justice Perkins all join Josh Perkins to talk a little bit about the offensive line and what it's like coming here to Bozeman from some different areas around the country.
I mean, think about put this perspective. Black young men who come up here, they come up here because they have other black young men to rely on and they relate to and they feel comfortable around. And so they're not coming up here because of the skiing, the golfing, the hiking. Yeah. They're coming up here because they got another brother like me that's out here. He's doing well. I guess I can.
Bro, that is my exact words to my mom. Yeah. When I came out on recruitment, it was a guy, Kenyatta Morgan, that was here, and he's from Inglewood. Yeah. That was my exact words. Another brother out there, Kenyatta, he's from Inglewood. He like it, so I'm going to go at least try it for a year. You know what I mean? That was my exact words, to tell you the truth.
Okay, but back to what you mentioned, media and the outside pressure and people talking, and I thought of a question, because we grew up in an era of no media. No social media, no Instagram, Snapchat.
Yeah, luckily.
And so, again, my question is, has that added more pressure on you guys, or do you guys have kind of a rule to stay off of social media, or how do you do it personally? Like me, personally, right now, I don't go on social media much because I feel like a lot of it's toxic and a lot of it's muck, and I try not to get immersed into it because it could just get you. And I'm sure as a player nowadays, I'm sure it gets real crazy seeing people say stupid stuff.
Yeah.
And some people hype
everybody
you
got
up.
an opinion.
How do you guys deal with that?
One thing that we try to preach, especially Perk preaches to us being a leader, is protect the team. So we try to protect the team, and because if we do something stupid, that represents the whole team, especially the online group. Especially in our room, we hold ourselves to a high standard. So really just protect the team and don't do nothing stupid.
Yeah, it's definitely easy to get caught up in it because it's so accessible, You just look up, you can literally look up your name on Twitter and see what people are saying about you. So it's definitely hard to, block it out all the time. But yeah, I think we just try our best to stay off as much as possible. And, obviously, like we said, so many fans are wishy-washy anyway. One game they'll be talking about how awful you are. The next game they're praising you. So, I don't really pay any mind to it. It is what it is.
Good. So I think the most important people are usually the ones in those meeting rooms.
Exactly.
Their opinions matter the most, and that's good. I was just curious because
you see it everywhere.
You see it everywhere.
Everyone has to promote themselves as an athlete. You going to summer camps, those clips you see everywhere. This lineman did so great, this one-on-one or stuff like that.
They're glorifying the good times, but you rarely see the hard times and the grind.
Reality of it, yeah.
A great conversation with that coach, and obviously the offensive line is the backbone of this program. But I thought it was interesting how they kind of talked about, coming up from L.A. and seeing other people from L.A. here who they can kind of rely on. And, there's quite a pipeline from Texas, from the Pacific Northwest, from the Southern California area coming up here. How do you see that kind of build upon itself when somebody comes from somewhere else and sees other people like them here already?
Well, I think it's critical to keep moving things forward. No matter where you're recruiting across our country, when a young man can come up and maybe his family comes up with them, and they can see someone that's from their area that's really thriving up there, and then that young man can articulate why he's thriving. Why his experience here in Bozeman is going as well as it is. That hopefully becomes this cyclical deal, and we can continue to recruit those areas. Be it the Seattle area, Portland, LA, San Diego, Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth. I think all those areas we're trying to build a stronghold as much as we can. And a stronghold is if one guy is successful, then the next guy is, then the next guy is, then the next guy is. So feel really good about the experience our guys are getting, no matter where they come from here in Bozeman. They're treated so well. They're getting a great education, and they're getting to play football in front of the best fans in the country.
Right, and you see a lot of these guys end up staying here after their playing career, but it kind of sounds like you really rely on some of your current players in that recruiting when guys come up here. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. You have an opportunity to have a player host when recruits are brought into town, and typically you want to make that player host as relative as you can. And if someone's from the same area, it doesn't need to be the same school. They don't need to know each other, but I think just if they're from that same area, I think they can speak the truth about what their experience is, and I think that resonates with the recruit, with his family, much more than it would be someone from a different spot in country.
Yeah, interesting perspective. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but big time game, a top 10 matchup coming up against Weber State on Saturday. We're talking about that next on the Bobcat Insider.
Welcome back to Bobcat Insider, sponsored by First Interstate Bank.
Back to the Bobcat Insider, getting ready for another marquee Big Sky matchup, a top 10 matchup between Montana State and Weber State. And Coach, let's get into this Weber State team a little bit. Top line here, coaching change. Jay Hill off to Brigham Young. They promote Mickey Mental, who was an offensive coordinator there. What do you know about Coach Mental, and what's kind of changed for them here?
Well, just 1 year as an offensive coordinator, and they did quite well with Coach Mental last year on the offensive side. Certainly saw an improvement. Had been a head coach before, so this is his first time being a head coach. I'm certain that was part of the reason he was elevated. And I'm sure part of it was just to continue to move things along. They had great success under Coach Hill, so much of his staff remains, and you really see a program built on principled football. Very complementary between the offense and defense, and they've sure done a great job on special teams over the years. So, Weber State has been one of the better programs, there's no question about it, in our conference over the past decade, and I think they continue to look that way. So we'll have our hands full come Saturday down in Ogden.
All right, well, let's talk about this offense for them a little bit. Bronson Barron transferred. He went over to Western Kentucky. He's coming off the bench for them right now. But Kylan Weiser, who we did see in that playoff matchup and threw for over 100 yards in that game, has been their starting quarterback. What have you seen from Weiser? What is his skill set?
Yeah, you certainly think back to that Saturday in December. He came in and played quite well. We had a sizable lead, and he came in and really brought them back. Fortunately, we were able to pull that one out. But I think he's probably picked up off of that experience. A little bit different, probably not as mobile as Barron was, but has a really strong arm. Is mobile enough to keep plays extended. And they got a good group that he's playing with, and that starts with their offensive line. So, maybe just a little bit different than they looked last year, but, he's maybe a work in progress to some degree, but very capable.
That offensive line, they're bringing back a ton. They got a lot of size. What's your defensive line going to have to do against this O-line for Weber?
Well, I think, we have to hold our own for sure, and I think this is one of the better offensive lines in our conference. I think there's no denying that with just experience and size and all they bring to the table. So, we're going to have to play really physical. We're going to have to do the things that we're capable of, whether that's movement, getting off blocks, those type of things, because they're a formidable challenge. And the running backs that they have, started with Bankston behind them, very talented, and they've proven so far that they can run the football, but that definitely starts with that group up front, and we got to be able to disrupt that running game as much as possible.
Yeah, that run game's a little bit different. Josh Davis, who was a 6-year guy, he's graduated. Dante McMillan, who's transferred now, he went over to Eastern Michigan. But Damon Bankston, he had 144 yards, 3 touchdowns in their win at Northern Iowa earlier in week 2. What does this number 1, Damon Bankston, do well?
Well, he played a bunch last year. He looks like he's put on some weight and strength. I think he's more powerful this year. I think last year, we saw him as a speed guy. He was a change of pace guy. Didn't get the run, and maybe the other guys did, but he's their main guy right now, and he's deserving of that role. In these 3 games, whether it's been against Central Washington, Northern Iowa, or even the University of Utah, he's got loose into the secondary, and he's a guy that's capable of breaking tackles with his physicality, and also he's capable of running away from people too. So, he's been their primary guy just in terms of yards and production on offense this year, and he's got to be a focal point for our attention.
Yeah, we'll also see a little bit of number 7, Chris Jackson, in that running back room as well. But let's focus on this defense. defense now for them. They've been built on their defense a ton. That linebacker core is ridiculous. Winston Reed is a beast. Jack Kelly is a great linebacker as well. They've been bringing him on a lot of pressure. How do Reed and Kelly work together, and how do they use that linebacker core?
Well, they both play really fast, and their defense allows for them to play fast, to see things and hit them. They pressure with both of them, and they're disruptive in that regard, whether that's the run game or the pass game. And by and large, if they get there, they're gonna get the ball to the ground. So we got to be able to get to that second level. And a lot of things they do are predicated on not getting O linemen to that second level. So we got to find ways to get blockers on them. We got to take advantage of their movement at times, but more so we just got to play on our side, their side of the line of scrimmage, I guess, as much as we can up front, and that'll make it harder on those linebackers. But yeah, they are really good players, and their success does certainly start with those two guys.
Now, you've won 3 straight against this team, but each of those 3 wins, it was right down to the wire, really hanging on for dear life at the end of those couple games at home. You all up for the task? I know this is going to be another dogfight.
Yeah, we expect it. Good program, does things a lot of the same ways we want to, as far as the offense, defense really playing complementary, and then special teams wise, they've been really able to make a difference on that side of the side of things. So we're going to have to play well. I think the team that's more physical, the team that doesn't turn it over, and then the team that capitalizes with the opportunities in the red zone, I think is going to come out on top, and we certainly hope that's the Bobcats.
All right, looking forward to it. It's a top 10 matchup between Montana State and Weber State. 6 o'clock on Saturday. We'll have the broadcast on MTN, and after this timeout, we'll have a little snippet of the Big Sky preview, which will be airing on Friday at 7 p.m. on MTN as well. For head coach Brent Vegan, I'm Keaton Galogly. This is the Bobcat Insider.
Welcome back to Bobcat Insider, sponsored by First Interstate Bank.
Ty, you'll be doing color commentary again for Montana State this year. What stood out about them through their 2-1 record so far?
I told you I took my son Jax, who's 8. We went down on the field this last game against Stetson. And sometimes with rosters, they can be a little inflated in terms of heights and weights and stuff. And I'm like, 6'9", come on, a 6'9" kicker? No. He's 6'9". I mean, he is tall, he is long, and he does have a big leg. I mean, I was telling you, the end zone, it's like a or a, if he doesn't kick it through the uprights on the kickoff. So, no, I mean, they defensively, they lost Ty Okada, they lost Callahan and Riley, which were a couple of their bell cows, but they return a man amongst boys, and Sebastian Valdez. The guy, Seabass is a player. I mean, I'm just telling you, I would have loved to have coached that guy. And then the 2 inside linebackers, your buddy from Billings in Nolan Askelson, Danny Hughes, a player, and then their secondary. They've had a couple coverage breakdowns. That's going to happen, but overall, I feel like their secondary's improved. So I look at this team with health, and the stars got to align. You got to coach good, you got to play good, you got to stay healthy. But I do look at this team as a team that could potentially make a run.
How do you see this slugfest? Sorry, Kyle, but I mean, Weber State loves to run the ball. Yep. You got number 3 against number 10. This is going to be a battle of wills.
I mean, you couldn't have said it better, and you just look at the last 3 games. All right, so they played twice last year, as you said. It's tough to beat a team twice. You don't really play in college football. You don't see a team twice, let alone beat them twice. Well, in the last 3 games, going back 2 years ago, the scores have been 5 points, 6 points, and 7 points. So slugfest is exactly what it's going to be. I mean, their fronts are big. They're built up front. I think Weber State's got one of the best linebackers in the country. They're going to run the ball. Their running back right now is number 1 in the Big Sky in running the football. It will be a slugfest in Ogden at 6 p.m. No doubt about it.
Something I want to talk about with the Bobcats is last year's run in the semifinals. I don't want to say it was a surprise because they're a good team. They're coached very well. But they made a run that felt like they had kind of duplicated what they did the year prior going to the national championship, right? Like you mentioned, they lost a lot of dudes. So it felt like last year, even with the run that they were kind of building to this year, because all those guys were going to be back, right? You mentioned Okada, O'Reilly, they're all going to be gone, but all these guys are coming back, their entire fronts, those linebackers that you mentioned, Tommy and Sean Chambers. So it feels like this is kind of that year, but man, do they have to earn it.
You got the schedule this year that the Grizzlies had last year with all those tough games on the road.
Yeah, and they've proven that they can go on the road and play well. Right. I mean, they were an inch away from beating the number 1 team in the country. Brent Vegan has a very business-like approach as a head coach. He to me is a beautiful combination of Rob Ash and Jeff Choate.